And until you really master the ability to be the manager of your time, be the one in control, you will lack productivity, or at least you'll have mediocre productivity. And you'll be in an ever increasing state of overwhelm, just like I was.
You an entrepreneur, I got what you need.
Hey there, my loves. Welcome back to CPTV. You like that? That's my son, by the way. The place for aspiring and growing entrepreneurs who want to turn their passions into businesses and their businesses into 6- and 7-figure empires. Does that sound like you? Then you are going to want to come on in, take a look around, and definitely subscribe, because every single Tuesday, I am giving you the strategies and the step-by-step actionable training for you to implement immediately in your business and life and get to that level of entrepreneurial freedom that you deserve and desire. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click that bell so you don't miss any of it. And of course, if you like it, show me. Actions, people. I'm about actions. Smash that like button too and say, what up, CP, in the comments below. I love talking to you guys. I am so excited to be back with you guys. I really have missed you, and I'm not sure why, because it's really only been a week, but as you guys are going to learn in this video, there's a reason why it feels longer for me. That's a clue. I'm CP, by the way, and I've been having a little trouble. I mean, I don't know if it's the lockdown or the lack of alone time or what, but I have really been trying to get it together regarding my lack of productivity. And I am very lucky that I'm able to recognize what's going on, because back in the day when I first started, before I developed certain time management skills, I wouldn't have even recognized what the problem really was. I would have just been floating around in this land of mediocre productivity for way too long. So I am able to get back on track, because for years I have implemented CP's 3 P's of time management as a philosophy. And it's just kind of what I do all the time in order to make sure that I am managing my time well and able to get so much done. Between being a CEO, being a wife, being a mother, and being a person, a woman. So I've always implemented certain things, and I've always taught these things to my students. But my levels of overwhelm have been slowly increasing. So I had to take a deep breath and step back, take a day to myself to really get it together. And I realized that I had been dropping the ball in some of those 3 P areas. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, I'm going to go ahead and link to that CP's 3 Ps video right here. And because it's walking you through CP's 3 Ps of time management. It focuses on planning, prioritizing, and producing as what every entrepreneur needs to implement to be better managers of time. And I teach what I do to plan, what I do to prioritize, and then to ultimately to complete the tasks that I need to get done in order to keep my progression going in my business. So I addressed the plan piece last week when I did a training on the details of how I do my to-do list, which I will link to right here as well, because that list is key in planning for time management. And I realized that I had gotten away from that practice because we've instituted, like some technology tools and things like that, and some project management things. And we've also got a ticketing system for customer service going on. And those tasks are really being created in those newer systems. So I had moved away from what I taught in that video. So make sure that you check it out. But my love, I've gotten back to the planning, which has been naturally progressing into the prioritization and scheduling so I can produce. And that, my love, is what I'm going to teach you about today, because I've gotten my shit together when it comes to my list, which allows me to prioritize and schedule out when I'm going to get it done. So today, I'm going to go deep with how I prioritize and produce using block scheduling. So let's head on over to my computer and get to work. All right, welcome to the computer. And I just wanted to kind of walk you through what my process is. And I thought that this would be a great opportunity to kind of loop you into me actually doing this. So I've got some stuff that I've got to kind of look out into my schedule and get kind of plugged in. I've already gone through the process that we've already talked about in organizing my list. So this is just one particular page from my list that's a little bit further out than right now. So I'm actually going through the process right now because my schedule tends to get booked a couple of weeks out to begin to look at what's happening a couple of weeks from now. And so I'm blocking off the time that I need in order to get this list that you see right here on the screen completed. And I'm just going to walk through that process, and so that you can kind of get an idea of when I say I'm prioritizing and I'm scheduling in order to be able to produce, this is exactly what I mean. Now, there's obviously a step that we'll talk about once we're wrapped up here, but I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of walk you through what I do, because I actually need to do this. So I'm going to do it with you guys and walk you through it. So as you can see here on my list, there's a couple of things I have to do. I have to create some email blasts, and I put the dates for those email blasts that they're going to ultimately go live. I have to create email copy for some sequences for a couple of different digital products and online programs, as well as my coaching programs. I've got to prepare for a webinar that I'm doing a guest spot on. I've got to prepare for a board meeting that I've got to work on video scripts for October. I've also got a Facebook ad copy review and update that I've got to do. And then I've got to prepare for some interviews I'm looking at adding to my team and create a certain product workflow. So these are all things that I've got to get done. And as you can see, some of them have deadline dates, as we talked about in the previous video, and some of them don't. So the ones that do are going to help me prioritize. So obviously, if I'm looking at due dates as early as like the 19th, when they're actually going to take place, then I need to begin planning out prior to that date and giving myself time to work on what this content's going to look like. So if I'm looking at the calendar over here, as you can see, there's the date of the actual webinar that I'll be doing. And so I need to make sure that I am prepared, done, signed, sealed, and delivered. I like to make sure that my final draft run through and everything is done at least a couple of days before. So that gives me, on looking at my calendar, the 17th to make sure that it's done and due. And so I know that I incorporate a couple of people, including my assistant, into this process. So that really means for me that I need to block off time the week before, give myself a complete week, me and my team, to put together the outline and to kind of create the PowerPoint and the content. So I'm going to go back a week and actually say, all right, so this stuff I need to start working on and looking at blocking off my time to work on it. So I'm looking at Thursday. I've got a 7-day challenge thing that's already kind of in my calendar. Everything else right now is pretty open. And I know I'm going to need some content time to specifically work on this webinar outline. So I'm going to choose Thursday the 10th. And as you can see, my daughter's practice, all my personal appointments that we talked about in the previous video are in here. So I know if I can do pickup or drop off, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and block off a couple of hours in my afternoon in order to work on that. So I'm just going to put in my calendar webinar work. If I can type work only. So now I've actually prioritized it because I know that when it's going to be due, when I want to have it completely done, and the time frame during which I need to be working on it, I've prioritized where it should go. And now I've actually taken the schedule and blocked off my calendar so that it actually works in there like it's an appointment. And that will bring me to the next step, which I'll talk to you guys about a little bit, but it's in my calendar. So now I just have to apply my due diligence and actually do it. So hopefully you understood that. Let's take a look at one more thing. So there's also a way that I prioritize groups of things. So for instance, as you can see, this is creating email blasts. This is also creating emails. And then down here, I've got video scripts. And then I've also got some Facebook ad copy. So that's like really big chunks of this list. Now it's all related to one overall theme, which is creating content, right? I've got to create content for various things. So now I'm looking at the number of email blasts and some emails, some ad copy, and also some video scripts that I've got to work on. And I know how long it generally takes me for video scripts to complete those, to kind of prepare for those. That's going to be like, 4 or 5 hours, depending upon the number of videos I'm producing. And then also some email copy. Usually I'm pretty good at that. So I'm going to block off a couple of hours. Now, when I look at when these things are due, 9/23 is when this one is due.
due. That's the only one with a definitive due date, other than the fact that I've got one up here that has an earlier date in September to be able to work. So now I'm looking at my calendar. I'm still in that same week where I just scheduled the webinar work, and I know I need to block off some content time. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific content just yet, but I know I'm going to need some content time that week to create. Fridays are great days because it's a very relaxed environment. I try to stay away from coaching calls and things like that on that day. So Friday's a good day for me to block off kind of a chunk of the afternoon just to work on content. I can put my music on, kind of get into my mojo. So I'm going to block off content time here, right? And now when I block off this content time in my calendar and I open up the specifics, now I'm going to put a bullet point on the specific things on my list that I am going to work on in this content time. So I've got to create email blasts, as it says, for newsletters. So I know I've got to, if I could just spell. Sorry, guys. Don't laugh at me. And then I've also got to do some email sequences. So if I'm on the emails, I'll just do the sequences as well in this time, right? So I'll put these two things in this block of time. We're good to go. Once I work on those, I will be able to check those off of my list. But now I've scheduled the time in order to be able to produce that content. And now if I'm looking at the following week and I'm saying, okay, video scripts and Facebook ad copy, they're all kind of in that same time frame. So now I'm just going to bump myself a week out because I'm still going to meet my deadline. I also know that if I'm looking at that same week, I'm going back to Fridays. I love Fridays. So I'm going to block off the following Friday for some content time as well. And in this content time, I'm going to do the exact same thing, guys. I'm going to open up my options and I'm actually going to list what I'm working on in this time frame. So I'm working on video scripts and I'm working on Facebook ad. So there it is. I've scheduled it, right? So now when you look at that list of things to do that's right there, I've created the time. I've blocked off my time. So I've prioritized it of exactly when it's done. It's going to be done in advance. It's going to be done on time. My credibility is going to still be intact because I do what I say I'm going to do when I'm going to do it. I've got the time blocked off to actually do it. And I also have it mapped out where once I'm done and I stick to these things and I ultimately allow myself to follow these rules, I am going to get so much off of my list in advance. It's going to be on time, and it's a wonderful way for me to prioritize and then to also block schedule my time so that I can actually get it done and produce. That's what I do. I take my list and I begin to look at my calendar and I block off the time. And it gives me an opportunity to really evaluate what I've got going on, what I know my habits are, when I know that I'm the most productive, and actually put it in my schedule. And guess what? When it shows up in my schedule, it stays in my schedule. It stays there. So I know I've got to get it done. This is that time blocked off for me to be able to do it, close my door, and ultimately pump it out. So let's head back over to the desk so that we can talk about one more tip that I'm going to give you. It's a CP impact tip, and I can't wait to share it. So I will see you there.
Okay, so welcome back. I am so glad that I was able to kind of walk you through what that process looks like for me. And I do take the time to do that on a weekly basis. It's mandatory because I have to make sure that I'm looking out far enough in time and actually blocking out the time. And guess what, guys? When I block it off in my calendar, that way, and the time is really accounted for. My stress levels, they kind of plummet and they go through the floor. They really come down because even though I may have written it down and put it on my list, it's still in the back of my mind that I've got to get it done, or that you've got to get it done. Well, once you schedule the time to get it done, you can take a deep breath because you know you're going to get it done. Why? Because it's in your calendar. It's an appointment, and you get to dictate when you're going to get it done, right? You don't allow random acts of time to just fall out of the sky and dictate it for you. And when you think about it, in essence, if you write it down on your list and you just hope and pray that the time is going to show up for you, it creates too much stress, y'all. Just too much stress, because inevitably something else is going to happen, right? If we haven't learned anything, we've learned that, and you just won't get it done. Well, now you are in essence truly being the manager of your time. It is not the other way around. And until you really master the ability to be the manager of your time, be the one in control, you will lack productivity, or at least you'll have mediocre productivity. And you'll be in an ever increasing state of overwhelm, just like I was. So, I mentioned that I have a CP impact tip for you. And that really leads me into CP's third P. And we've already touched on it a bit, but I gotta go a little bit deeper. Guys, this really is a conversation for Asher. Y'all know who he is, right?
Asher, as referred to in the Urban Dictionary as Asher syndrome, means the distinct inability to get your shit together.
And yes, we are telling you to get your shit together, get your discipline together, get your work ethic together, get your commitment to get it done together. Because no matter how much training I provide or tips I give you or walkthroughs that I actually show you, no matter how much I tell you about how to exactly create a list and how to prioritize and also how to schedule that list so you can be productive, if you don't actually have the discipline to do the work when your scheduling tells you that you have to do the work, then it's an effort in futility. And really, you're just kidding yourself. I guess what I'm trying to say is this: the real true success in managing your time and being more productive comes when you tell yourself that you are committed and disciplined enough to actually get the work done. Don't allow yourself to make excuses for whatever number of reasons you can come up with, because it's all bullshit, right? You're going to say, I organized it, I scheduled it, and when it's in my calendar, I'm going to do it, right? Right. Otherwise, none of it means diddly squat. Diddly squat. So did you like this? Well, if so, let me know. Smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. Leave me a what up CP down below in the comments. And until next time, my love, have a wonderful week. Stay safe, and I will see you next Tuesday. Mwah!